Supreme Court of India, in the matter of Vinod Bihari Lal versus State of Uttar Pradesh, allowed the appeals and set aside impugned judgment and order. Impugned proceedings arising out of subject FIR, which came to be registered against appellant on 28 July 2018, at instance of Station House Officer P.S. Nani, FIR alleged that upon visits to certain areas, it was ascertained that appellant, along with David Datta, constitute an organized gang in terms of Section 2B of Act of 1986, with appellant acting as its leader. It was further alleged that gang was adept at committing economic offences involving fraud and cheating, being offences of the kind described in Chapter 16, 17, and 22 of IPC, respectively, for personal material and pecuniary gain for themselves by forging documents. Court said that it was apparent the definition of term gang was not attracted by mere association with miscreant group. For such a group to metamorphose into a gang, it must engage in antisocial activities enumerated in clauses 1 to 25 of Section 2B, and these must be committed for subject object mentioned thereunder. In a sense, group of persons falls within the ambit of Section 2B only when the requirements set forth in Rule 3 are satisfied. Court, in the case of Shraddha Gupta versus State of Uttar Pradesh, held that an accused can be termed as gangster when he, as a member of gang, has indulged in any of enumerated antisocial activities, whether by means expressly stated or otherwise, with the object of disturbing public order or of gaining any undue temporal, pecuniary, material, or other advantage for himself or any other person. From exposition of law, a group of persons may be said to constitute a gang only when they either singly or collectively indulge in any of antisocial activity enumerated in clauses 1 to XVV of Section 2B by means specified therein, or otherwise, most importantly, with the object of disturbing public order, securing any undue temporal, pecuniary, material, other advantage for himself or any other person. Although present matter before the court pertains solely to subject FIR in question, yet it must be noted that as an FIR registered under Act of 1986 cannot be sustained in absence of a base case or FIR. Charge filed on completion of investigation raised only two accused, on one of whom is appellant, and states that based on investigation conducted, reading of statement of complainant with and other witnesses, and perusal of gang chart along with FIRs, the offence under sections 2 and 3 of the Act of 1986 stands proved against accused person. Charge sheet was devoid of any external enclosures that might substantiate allegations or at least indicate a genuine, impartial, and transparent investigation was carried out. Statements attributed to complainant and witnesses were mere verbatim reproductions of the subject FIR and base FIRs. Contents of charge sheet reflected a casual and cavalier attitude on part of investigating agency, as it disclosed nothing beyond what was already stated in the FIR. Further, it remained obscure as to how the investigating authorities could assert that the offence under sections 2 and 3 respectively stands proved against appellant without enclosing any documentary proof. The court strongly disapproved of this practice and cast it into cold storage, wherein investigating authority proclaims an offence to be proved. Court said we would like to remind that the role of investigating agencies is strictly circumscribed to conducting an impartial investigation into alleged crime. Guilt or innocence of accused is for the trial court to determine. It is noteworthy to mention that subject FIR was registered after approximately a year from the date of registration of the first base FIR. In the three base FIRs, the allegations against appellant pertain to offences under Chapter 16, 17, and 22 of IPC, and thus may fall within scope of antisocial activities itemized under Section 2B, even assuming for sake of argument that these acts were committed by any of the means specified therein, they do not, even in remotest possibility, appear that they had been committed with the object of disturbing public order or to gain any undue temporal, pecuniary, material, or other advantage for himself or any other person. It was also pertinent to note that in impugned proceedings, the appellant and one David Datta had been arraigned as gangsters, whereas in the base FIRs, David Datta does not figure at all as an accused. In such circumstances, Gang Chart could not have listed the said three FIRs as base FIRs against the appellant and David Datta together. If an investigating agency contemplated existence of gang comprising of both known and unknown persons, then it becomes incumbent upon investigating agency to specify the same in both the gang chart and the charge sheet. Court said we find merit in the submission advanced by Mr. Dave that if subject FIR and gang chart were indeed prepared on strength of base FIRs, there was no good or plausible explanation from investigating agency as to why no investigation was initiated against other similarly placed accused persons. Selective approach raises serious doubts about bona fides of investigating agency and integrity of the investigation undertaken under Act of 1986. Moreover, the two remaining base FIRs, one had already been quashed by the court in the criminal appeal. In the other FIR, date of the incident is conspicuously absent. Though the FIR itself was registered on 21st of August 2017, the allegations therein pertain to administration of a school and cannot by any stretch of imagination be said to have been committed with the object of disturbing public order of gaining undue temporal, pecuniary, material or other advantage for appellant or any other person. Allegations also fail to disclose whether any act of violence, threat, show of violence, intimidation, or coercion was resorted to for achieving said object. Even charge sheet filed pursuant to investigation in said base FIR, apart from mere reiteration of contents of FIR, made only a vague reference to signature allegedly forged on certain forms and documents. In the facts and circumstances of the case, more particularly in view of vague and general allegations leveled in the subject FIR requiring appellant to stand trial would amount to nothing but an abuse of process of law. Non-interference in such a case would thus result in miscarriage of justice, said the court.